On the eve of our wedding, a sudden car accident snatched away Lu Ran's life. Everyone expected me to be consumed by grief, yet I neither wept nor raged. 5 years later, a chance encounter at a hotel revealed her resurrected, though stripped of memory. Amidst the rowdy cheers of the crowd, she locked lips with her stepbrother Gu Wu, their passion inseparable as glue. Noticing me standing alone, a flicker of triumph flashed in her eyes. I hear you were my once-betrothed fiancé? 5 years later, you still linger by my side. Could it be you're so hopelessly devoted? Knowing your undying devotion, I might buy you a property as compensation for your unwavering loyalty these years. But remember, I'll only marry Xiao Wu. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays belong to us. As for other days, I might condescend to spare you some time. The corners of my lips curled upward in a smile steeped in mockery. My apologies. I'm afraid you've mistaken me for someone else. Lu Ran naturally had no way of knowing that on the night of the car accident, I had received a video evidence. What she could never learn was that during her carefree days with Gu Wu, I had already started a family, my child now 4 years old. The greatest secret lay in this. The one currently by my side was none other than her biological aunt. When I saw Lu Ran again, I never imagined it would be such a spectacle. She clung fiercely to Gu Wu, their bodies pressed flush together amid the crowd's raucous laughter and cheers. They kissed with such fervor, as if the entire world had dissolved around them. After a long while, Lu Ran's cheeks flushed crimson as she pouted in Gu Wu's arms. You brute. So rough you've bruised my lips. Gu Wu pressed her palm against his sculpted abdomen. Can't blame me when you tempt like this. Any man would lose control. The private room grew even more lively. Lu Ran's girlfriends kept laughing and teasing, repeatedly calling Gu Wu future brother-in-law. Lu Ran raised her eyebrows slightly, her body leaning lazily against him. Someone nearby heckled. Ran, 5 years have passed. Does Gu Bufan really not care anymore? Lu Ran casually reclined on the sofa, saying indifferently, he cares so much it's unbearable. I just haven't regained my memories yet. After marrying Xiao Wu, everything will return to normal. Gu Bufan loved Ran to the marrow of his bones. If he knew you were still alive, he might climb 9,000 steps again to beg Bodhisattva for your safety. Haha, just thinking about Gu Bufan's shameless appearance is hilarious. For you, he's practically become an invincible simp. Rumor has it these 5 years abroad without Ran, he even found life meaningless. The entire private room erupted in roaring laughter, the noise nearly lifting the roof off. I had intended to leave immediately, but a sharp-eyed girl spotted me. Gu Bufan. The girl who had earlier mocked me as the ultimate simp froze awkwardly and stammered an explanation. Ran is actually alive. We didn't tell you because she lost her memory and fell for someone else. We were afraid you couldn't handle it. Exactly. Everyone knows Ran still loves you most deep down, but she doesn't remember you now. If you make a scene, people will just think you're insane. Watching these women with their clumsy acting, I could only scoff. Before I could respond, Lu Ran stood up first, eyeing me disdainfully. So you're the fiancé I've supposedly been pining for to the death? She scrutinized my outfit with visible disgust and sneered. How did you end up like this without me? Are you really that helpless without me? The Lu Ran before me was still as arrogant as ever. 5 years apart, the faint smugness in her brows now had long since made me lose all my former feelings towards her. Nothing but disgust remained. Having just gotten off the plane, I was still adjusting to the time difference. The only reason I came to this hotel was because they exclusively sold the strawberry mousse my daughter loved most. When I remained silent, she hooked her arm around Gu Wu's neck and staged another passionate kissing scene right before me. The traces of their connected lips remained clearly visible after the kiss. Ran, if we keep this up, my brother will probably be heartbroken. Maybe I should stop causing trouble. Yet the speaker didn't move an inch, her gaze towards me overflowing with unconcealed triumph. I instinctively pressed my lips tight, feeling intensely uncomfortable. Lu Ran seemed to misinterpret my changing expression, continuing to tease me with a smile. What's there to fear? You'll be my legal husband in the future. If he still wants to reconcile, he'll have to get used to this new reality. She then provocatively raised an eyebrow at me. Considering you've remained chaste for me all these years, I could buy you an external residence. But the marriage certificate will only be with Xiaowu. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays with him. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays with you. Sundays you'll take care of us both. The crowd immediately chimed in. Gu Bufan, see? Even memory loss hasn't changed her feelings for you. 3 days together each week. Exactly. Look what you've become after 5 years without Ran's company. Must have done plenty of hard labor abroad. Better accept quickly before she changes her mind. No amount of begging will help then. Gu Wu's arm around Lu Ran's slender waist seemed like a declaration of sovereignty as he challenged me with his gaze. Brother, there's really no other way. You've seen how Ran only treats me well now. You'll just have to suck it up and be the secret lover. Being a kept man isn't so bad. Look how pitiful he's become without her. Wouldn't matter if he died anyway. My heart suddenly spasmed with pain. When the car accident happened 5 years ago, she had shielded me with her own body. In those final moments before losing consciousness, she kept clutching my trembling hand and comforting me. Don't be afraid, darling. I'd gladly give my life to protect you from harm. Could someone who loved me so deeply become like this just because of memory loss? My throat constricted as if I'd swallowed rusty iron. After taking a deep breath, I smiled faintly. I'm sorry, but you've mistaken me for someone else. Besides, I'm already married. After a brief few seconds of silence at the scene, sudden uproarious laughter erupted. Lu Ran raised her eyebrows nonchalantly. Married? To a garbage collector or a street sweeper? Gubu fan, you don't seriously think such a lame excuse would make me jealous? Are you out of your mind? She keenly noticed the familiar watch on my wrist, grabbed my arm, and removed the watch before I could react. I winced in pain, about to speak when Guwu burst into laughter. Ran, isn't this the only love of this life? Watch your aunt spent $2 billion on at that auction in country A 5 years ago. Is my brother trying to say he married your aunt and became your uncle-in-law? The crowd erupted into even louder laughter at these words. Everyone knew Lu Yu, Lu Ran's aunt, was the current head of the Lu family. Though only 5 years older than Lu Ran, she was a name that commanded respect whenever mentioned. Not only is she stunningly beautiful with an icy allure, but also emotionally devoted. Having been married for 5 years, no one has ever seen her husband and daughter. She's kept them completely hidden away. Brother, you dare act like a big shot without even preparing a cover story? We believe you're chasing a sugar mommy, but claiming to be Ran's uncle-in-law? This is beyond embarrassing. Someone teased while examining the watch. Gotta admit, this fake watch is impressively similar to the real deal. How much did you spend? Gu Bufan really went all out to deceive Ran. Faced with the crowd's mockery and skepticism, I pleaded helplessly. This isn't a counterfeit. It's genuine. Before I could finish, a sudden slap struck my face with brutal force, the searing pain instantly spreading across my cheek. Are you out of your mind? Of all people to mess with, you target my aunt? Everyone knows my aunt adores her husband. How could she possibly want a second-hand goods even I wouldn't look at? No mirror? Then why don't you take a piss to see yourself? I can't stand pretentious people like you. I must have been blind to ever like you before. How degrading. I covered my face and slowly turned my head. Perhaps because my gaze was too composed, Lu Ran suddenly averted her eyes with a guilty conscience. Guwu refused to let me off. Brother, Ran lost her memory yet LL wants to keep you as her lover. Instead of being grateful, you actually try to harm her. Knowing how much President Lu values her husband, how dare you impersonate her uncle? How could you possibly add to her troubles? You're utterly selfish and vicious. Gu Wu is my stepmother's son. On the 7th-day mourning period after my mother's death, under my father's coercion, I accepted this brother 1 year my junior at the memorial hall. He was like an inescapable shadow, never allowing anything beautiful to exist around me. Everything that could be taken was taken, and what couldn't be taken was destroyed. 5 years ago, Lu Ran would protect me with her frail body, coldly reprimanding Gu Wu. Now, the person before me remained the same person. Only now she stood in front of Gu Wu, disdainfully throwing a stack of money at me. Isn't all this just for money? Take it then. The sharp edges of the bills cut my forehead, tiny beads of blood oozing out. I didn't wipe it, but detected a trace of concealed tension in Lu Ran's eyes. The next moment, I bent down. She immediately relaxed, sneering coldly. That's more like it. Those who beg for favors should act like beggars. I retrieved the watch discarded among the pile of red banknotes. Lu Ran stared at me in disbelief, an inexplicable panic suddenly rising in her heart. When I was about to leave, she suddenly grabbed my hand. Addicted to acting? Can't this money even buy a fake broken watch? I didn't understand why she was so anxious. Let go. She glared at me with clenched teeth. You really won't give up until you hit a dead end. Fine, Xiao Wu and I will hold our wedding in a week. My aunt happens to return that day. You should come too. Let you witness properly how shameless trash like you can be. At the mention of marriage, Gu Wu could no longer contain his joy. Brother, you're not afraid to come because you might expose yourself, are you? I carefully put away the watch and replied calmly, I'll come. Hope you won't regret it then. After leaving the private room, I stood at the entrance for a while. Lu Ran's friend sighed. Ran, isn't this going too far? Gu Bufan seemed off today. Would he really show up? How could he? He's just pretending. Lu Ran stated with absolute certainty. With his people-pleasing nature, doesn't he come running whenever I beckon? Recalling the unervingly calm gaze I'd given when leaving earlier, Lu Ran subconsciously pressed her lips. I've had my fun. After the wedding, I'll regain my memory, then act heartbroken and whisper sweet nothings. he'll definitely come crawling back to beg me. Exactly. Ranran's too clever. Using amnesia as an excuse to roam free for 5 years, while keeping Gu Bufan waiting without complaint. Gu Wu grumbled resentfully. But if you remember everything, what becomes of me? Lu Ran pinched his abdominal mo. Squeeze obsessively. We'll just continue like before. Besides, open relationships can't compare to the thrill of secret affairs. Hearing their entire conversation, an icy chill settled in my heart. I strode swiftly toward the hotel entrance, taking deep breaths there to suppress the rising nausea. 5 years ago, on the night when Lu Ran died unexpectedly, someone sent me a video. When I opened it, there was her laughter inside. It's true I like Gu Bufan, but he's too dull. The thought of being tied to just him after marriage is utterly boring. So I came up with this plan to fake my death. After traveling freely for a few years, I'll return claiming amnesia. You must film plenty of footage showing his utter despair. I can't wait to see how miserable he becomes for me. When the doctor announced her death that day, I completely broke down as she had wished. That desperation of losing everything left me too exhausted even to cry. I even considered ending my life, but her so-called good friends forcibly stopped me. Yet I never realized there was a phone nearby recording every moment of my grief. Nor did I notice that behind this charade, those women were barely suppressing mocking smiles beneath their feigned solemnity. Putting away the phone. From that moment on, even though the world believed Lu Ran was dead, she had long ceased to be alive in my heart. The news of Lu Ran's survival was exposed alongside her marriage announcement, instantly triggering an uproar. That evening, Gu updated his social media status. A dreamlike wedding venue. An exquisite wedding dress. The one and only diamond ring of a lifetime. All these were meticulously prepared by Lu Ran for our wedding years ago. In the photos, they held hands tightly, accompanied by nauseating sweet nothings. I just glanced at it and was about to exit when Lu Ran's message suddenly popped up, burning with jealousy yet. I immediately deleted it and blocked her. Right after, Gu Wu's message surfaced too. See clearly now? You were just our plaything. Only I deserve to be the Lu family's son-in-law. Without hesitation, I gave him the same treatment. A week later, the wedding proceeded as scheduled, delayed by my daughter clinging to me. When I finally arrived at the hotel, the ceremony had already reached the watch-exchanging ritual. Lu Ran frequently glanced toward the entrance. The moment she saw me enter, her expression visibly relaxed. She smiled faintly and deliberately hesitated for a moment when the host asked if she was willing to marry the groom. Yet she waited in vain for my response. Watching me clapping with the crowd in the audience, Lu Ran's face instantly turned ashen. Someone gave me a hard shove from behind. Caught off guard, I lunged headlong toward the nearby beverage table. The towering champagne tower collapsed, said instantly, drenching me in alcohol and shattering glass. Blood streamed down my forehead. Through blurred vision, I seemed to see Lu Ran rushing toward me urgently, but Gu Wu charged forward first. He gripped me fiercely, his eyes bloodshot. Bro, I sincerely invited you to the wedding. How could you deliberately sabotage it? I know you resent that Ran only loves me now. No matter how you treat me, I can accept it. Must you destroy my happiness to be satisfied? Can't you bear to see me happy? Gu Wu's grip was exceptionally strong, his hand clutching a shard of glass that pierced my skin viciously, the pain making my whole body tremble. When I instinctively tried to push him away, he suddenly fell backward. Then a wine bottle smashed violently against my head. A buzzing sound filled my ears as darkness engulfed my vision. Looking up, I met Lu Ran's furious gaze. You're such a leech. I don't even know you anymore, yet you insist on clinging to me. I've never seen such a shameless man. Apologize to Xiao Wu. Many guests had attended specifically to see Lu Yu. To curry favor with Lu Ran, they launched indiscriminate attacks against me. You should have some dignity. Miss Lu doesn't even remember you, yet you still cling to her like a lapdog. You're utterly disgracing men. If you're truly desperate for women, why not find a sugar mommy to coast by? You actually dared to disrupt the wedding venue. Just looking at your ferocious and malevolent face, anyone can tell you'd have violent tendencies after marriage. Thankfully, Miss Lu never married trash like you back then. At this moment, Gu Wu suddenly pointed tremblingly at my wrist. Brother, didn't I mention that President Lu would attend today? You actually dared to wear this counterfeit, eternal devotion watch. Could it be that while claiming to love Ran, you secretly harbor intentions to seduce President Lu? The moment these words fell, all eyes focused on the watch on my wrist. Someone immediately shouted, I heard about that guy who once claimed to be President Lu's one-night stand and came to make trouble. They just removed this eternal devotion watch for one day, and the next day he was found in an underground market in Country A, with a collar around his neck and all 4 limbs severed. After hearing these words, Lu Ran's face immediately darkened. Gu Wu said hypocritically, Ran, so many people are present. Once President Lu finds out, my brother's hand cannot remain. Lu Ran fell silent for a moment, then picked up a dinner knife from the table. I stepped back several paces but was surrounded by a crowd. Several strong guests directly seized my hands. Lu Ran, if you dare lay a finger on me, Qing Ji won't let you off easily. Brother, at this point, stop acting tough. You don't understand President Lu's ruthlessness. When she deals with you, her methods won't be this simple. The only reason Ran is handling you with just one hand is because you were once her fiancé. Lu Ran stepped towards me, a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. I'll try to be gentle. They forced my hand down. Despair overwhelmed me instantly. Pale-faced, I shouted, let go. My wife is Lu Yu. The people around looked at me as if I were a madman. Lu Ran crouched down. I know you resorted to such extreme measures because you care too much about me. Don't do these irrational things again. Even without a hand, I won't abandon you. With those words, she swiftly raised the knife and swung it down. My wristwatch and palm were severed together. Gu Wu immediately picked up the severed hand and threw it out the window. The pain nearly made me faint, my eyes nearly bulging out of their sockets. When I looked up, I faintly caught his triumphant smile. Ran, no one to stop. Be careful you can't clean up the mess when memories return, a friend whispered in warning. Gu Wu cut in abruptly. Ran, Chairman Lu will arrive soon. Do you really want her to see her brother mutilated into a cripple, wearing a dog collar? Young Master Gu is right, someone agreed. Losing a hand can be fixed with a prosthetic. At least it's better than losing your life. Lu Ran's hesitant expression instantly turned resolute. Seeing me trembling and curled up on the ground, she said through gritted teeth, Gu Bufan, this is for your own good. I'll compensate you in the future. My face was deathly pale, my entire body drenched in cold sweat, the pain rendering me speechless. Just as the coldly glinting blade was about to descend again, the banquet hall doors were suddenly thrown open. Lu Yu entered accompanied by attendants, her high heels clicking crisply, her strides vigorous. She carried an adorable little girl in her arms, who immediately began scanning the hall upon entry, as if searching for something. Mommy, put me down quickly. I need to find Daddy. He said he'd be here today. Lu Yu half-crouched, gently setting down her daughter while smiling and stroking the child's head. The bodyguards following behind immediately positioned themselves beside the little girl to protect her. The crowd realized this child must be the legendary treasure Lu Yu had kept hidden for 4 years, her precious daughter. Judging from her words, her father seemed to have also come here. Some quick-witted individuals had already started surreptitiously making calls to prepare gifts. As everyone knew, this mysterious Mr. Lu was precisely the person Lu Yu cared about most. As long as he was pleased, what cooperation couldn't be negotiated? Gu Wu pushed through the crowd, grabbed some candies from the table, and offered them to the little girl with an ingratiating smile. Sweetheart, you're so pretty. Uncle likes you very much. Have some candy. The little girl frowned and immediately pouted. Daddy told me not to eat things given by strangers. Besides, you smile like a child trafficker. I don't like you. Publicly rebuffed, a flash of gloom crossed Gu Wu's eyes. Though he stiffly tried to keep smiling and speak again, Lu Ran pulled him aside. She turned to Lu Yu, her tone involuntarily tinged with respect. Aunt, you've finally come. Since cousin is with you, where's uncle? He already came here earlier. What's going on? Didn't you run into him? Lu Ran froze. What did she mean by not meeting him? It sounded like she should have actually seen this uncle-in-law. While still puzzled, the little girl's childish voice suddenly rang out. Before leaving home, Daddy said he was attending an old friend's wedding. How could you forget your own old friend? Even a child like me can tell at one glance from the family portrait that you're the cousin sister who returned from the gates of death. Lu Ran blushed to the tips of her ears. You didn't actually die, so why did you wait 5 years to say you're still alive? Such a grown-up, yet less honest than Nuonyuo. Having lied for 5 years. Aren't you ashamed? Today's your wedding day, right? Can you help me find where my daddy is? Before Lu Ran could react, Gu Wu hastily interjected. Sweetheart, we haven't seen your father, but there's someone here pretending to be him. This man not only impersonated your father, but also wore the same model watch as your father's, trying to deceive your mother. As these words fell, Lu Yu's complexion turned icy cold in an instant. Seeing this, Gu Wu became even more emboldened. President Lu, you can't imagine how shameless this scoundrel is. Just days ago, he came wearing a counterfeit version of the watch you gave your husband, causing trouble. I already warned him your heart belongs solely to your husband, yet he still claimed you were his wife. Utterly brazen. Lu Ran furrowed her brows. While listening to Gu Wu's tirade, she instinctively sensed something amiss and felt he was overstepping boundaries. Lu Yu suddenly laughed, a chill-inducing smile that raised hairs on necks. Tell me then, who is this shameless man? He's Ran's former fiancé, also my elder brother, Gu Bufan. As these words echoed through the air, the people surrounding Lu Yu all paled visibly. But Gu Wu completely failed to sense anything amiss and continued self-importantly. Ran has lost her memory now and only likes me. He came to sabotage our wedding, claiming to love Ran while wearing the watch you gave your husband, clearly trying to seduce you. Though he's my biological brother, I know his ruthless tactics and jealous nature. He bullied me constantly at home. I endured all that, but I can't tolerate him impersonating your beloved man. Rest assured, we've already chopped off that fake watch-wearing hand and thrown it out the window, guaranteed on wreck. Overable. If you're still angry, feel free to beat or scold him. No need to save face for this nephew-in-law of mine. Since when are you worthy of our President Lu's saving face for you? Lu Yu's assistant immediately stepped forward to shield her while swiftly arranging for Lu Nuo to be taken away. Lu Yu's face turned ashen, while Gu Wu mistakenly thought he'd provoked this reaction and sought to add fuel to the fire. Finally sensing something amiss, Lu Ran immediately stopped him and shouted angrily, "Shut your mouth." The first to arrive was her uncle-in-law. All the guests present were those she had invited. The only exception was me, and Lu Nuo's little face that bore striking resemblance to mine. An absurd yet plausible idea gradually formed in Lu Ran's mind. An inexplicable pain in her heart grew increasingly intense. It can't be. Get someone here immediately. Lu Yu massaged her temples, her face terrifyingly dark. Despite her young age, Lu Nuo had always been clever. Hearing this, she started crying hysterically in fear. "Daddy, I want my daddy." Lu Yu crouched down and picked her up. "Let Andy comfort her. I'm great at cheering up children when their uncle can't be found." As Gu Wu reached out his hand, Lu Nuo cried out, "Go away, you bad person. You scolded my daddy and cut off his hand. I'll tell the police uncle to arrest you." With just that one sentence, the entire room froze, everyone staring at Lu Nuo in disbelief. Only one person had been accused by Gu Wu moments earlier. There was only one owner of that severed hand. Almost simultaneously, all the guests present retreated several meters away from Gu Wu, terrified of being associated with him. Gu Wu's eyes widened in shock, his complexion visibly paling. The assistant pushed through the crowd. "President Lu, the gentleman is here." I'd been thrown into a corner, semi-conscious, my untreated hand bleeding profusely with blood pooling on the floor. Lu Yu crouched down, her fingers hovering over my pallid face for a moment, not daring to make contact. The assistant whispered, "President Lu, we've called 120 emergency. Someone's searching for the severed palm." She nodded, using her sleeve to gently wipe away my sweat, her eyes red and filled with heartache. When she raised her head, suppressing fury, she instead laughed coldly. "How splendid. You even dared chop off my husband's hand." Though her expression remained calm, it instantly plunged the entire banquet hall's atmosphere into an icy freeze. Lu Ran turned deathly pale, her eyes filled with disbelief and unbearable devastation. "Aunt, you're lying, right? How could Gu Buffon possibly be uncle? This must be fake. What did he promise you to make you act in this charade with him?" The assistant finally interjected. "Miss, who do you think could make President Lu willingly cooperate in acting? Stop deceiving yourself. The man whose hand you severed right before your eyes is your uncle. Rather than doubting his identity, you should be more concerned about your own situation. After harming someone so gravely, you'd better think hard about how to make amends." Gu Wu, seeing how Lu Yu treasured me like a precious jewel, felt jealousy and resentment surging like poison within him, immediately starting to spout harsh words. "Aunt, you mustn't be fooled by this trash Gu Buffon. He's exceptionally good at pretending, appears refined on the surface, but is actually vicious. He constantly brings different women home and has made his body unclean." Before he could finish speaking, Lu Ran slapped him hard across the face. "Shut up." Lu Ran's eyes were red with anger. "Buffon isn't like that at all. You're just jealous of him and slandering him." Suddenly seeming to realize something, Lu Ran's eyes swept around the room and spotted the rumor-monger trying to sneak away. She grabbed a dinner knife and directly pierced through the person's palm. Facing the frenzied Lu Ran, the bloodied man knelt on the ground begging for mercy. "Miss Lu, I truly don't know anything. Gu Wu forced me to spread those lies just to create panic and deal with young Master Gu. He paid me 100,000 yuan. It really has nothing to do with me. What nonsense are you spouting? I don't even know you." After the truth came to light, Gu Wu hurriedly tried to distance himself from the matter. However, his nervous, uneasy eyes had already betrayed everything. The man kept crawling and apologizing, kowtowing all the way to Lu Yu's feet. "Director Lu, I was wrong, truly wrong. Please spare me. I'll return the 100,000 yuan. This really has nothing to do with me. It was all Gu Wu's idea. He fabricated the rumors. And your husband's hand was severed by Miss Lu Ran herself. Everyone saw it. The one who truly wanted your husband dead is Gu Wu. I wouldn't dare lay a finger on him even if given 100 guts." Lu Yu snorted coldly. "So if you weren't my husband, you could do whatever you wanted to him." "That's not what I meant. No. Lu Yu lost patience. She raised her hand to signal several bodyguards to gag the man and drag him away. Soon, an assistant arrived holding the severed hand. Director Liu, we found it. The ambulance is already waiting outside. Watching the doctors lift me onto the stretcher for hospital transfer, she then swept a cold gaze across the banquet hall and instructed her assistant, handle the aftermath here. Make them all understand the price, what a single hand of my husband truly signifies. The grand doors immediately closed shut, with a team of bodyguards stationed outside. Not a single person present today would leave this place unscathed. When I awoke again, intense arguing voices came from beyond the door. Suddenly, the hospital room door was violently pushed open. Liu ran, still wearing her wedding dress from the ceremony, rushed and covered in grime. Clutching a repaired protective amulet in her hand, she gazed at me with eyes full of tender emotion. Buffon, I've remembered. I've recalled everything. I'm sorry. This is all my fault for making you suffer so much. But rest assured, I'm back now. I'll never leave you again. I quietly observed her, my gaze ultimately settling on the protective amulet in her hand. That charm was from 5 years ago, when she was in a near-fatal car accident. I crawled up 9,000 steps to pray for it. At the time, I was already gravely injured, barely clinging to life. I gave her the protection charm I'd begged for, then collapsed on the mountain path. Yet after she died, she treated that charm as a joke, even tearing it to shreds in a video. Now she's somehow retrieved and pieced it back together. Paper can be mended, but shattered emotions can never be repaired. Liu Ran, stop pretending. I know you never lost your memories. From the moment you faked your death 5 years ago, I understood everything. Liu Ran froze, the shock in her eyes gradually morphing into terror as she reached out to grab me. But her movement abruptly halted when she saw my newly healed palms. Covering her face helplessly, she nearly shouted in despair. So you married my aunt deliberately to take revenge on me? We are different, I said, looking directly into her eyes. What I love now is Qingji. Liu Ran nearly fled in a disheveled manner. I thought I had made myself clear this time, but a week later when I was discharged from the hospital, I encountered her again at the entrance. She seemed to have waited for a long time. Upon seeing me, she rushed over excitedly, but before she could touch me, she was blocked by Liu Yu's slap. Clutching her face, she glared angrily at Liu Yu. You scheming woman. It was you who sent the video from 5 years ago to Buffon, just to break us apart. She shouted without any dignity. Buffon, Liu Yu has never been sincere to you. She's been manipulating you all along. You're being deceived by her. I frowned slightly. Though her eyes were filled with anticipation, I said coldly. Who sent the video isn't important at all. Are your fake death, feigned amnesia, affairs with Gu Wu, and chopping off my arm not facts? Liu Ran, let me tell you one last time. We were over 5 years ago. Now I love Qingji, and it will only ever be her in the future. From now on, I'm your uncle. Please stop causing scenes and bringing shame to the Liu family. After saying these words, I didn't look at her again. Instead, I tightly grasped Liu Yu's hand, our fingers interlocked. Qingji's tightly furrowed brows immediately relaxed. It wasn't until 2 months later that we heard news about Liu Ran again. It was said she had become paralyzed and would have to rely on a wheelchair, or for the rest of her life. To obtain a talisman that could create a bond with me, she retraced the path I had taken years ago. She managed to climb all 9,000 steps, but slipped and fell while descending. In the quiet forest, by the time she was found, the optimal window for rescue had already passed. It is said that on the way to the hospital, even as blood flowed from her hands, she still clutched tightly to the fate-binding talisman, repeating incessantly, "My extraordinary destiny awaits me. We promised never to part." I didn't take it to heart, nor did I have time to spare for such matters, because I was busy taking a family portrait. Liu Yu leaned against me with a stiff expression. I teased in her ear, "Are you jealous?" She replied with a hint of displeasure. "Yes, I've been jealous for 7 years. You're my husband now. Don't you dare feel sorry for other women." I couldn't help but laugh, yet held her even tighter. Our daughter saw this and squeezed in to act coquettish. "Daddy, Mommy, Nanan wants hugs and kisses too." Smiling, I embraced them both with an arm around each. The photo turned out exceptionally well. The studio staff asked if we'd leave a copy for their display window. Surprisingly, Liu Yu, who was usually very low-key, agreed this time. On the way home, through the rapidly passing car window, I saw Gu Wu being beaten with broken arms and legs, lying in the street corner, shouting nonsense. He was babbling. "I'm the Liu family's son-in-law. You bastards aren't even worthy to shine my shoes." I quickly covered my daughter's ears, while the woman beside me reached out to cover mine. Looking at her slightly flushed cheeks, I couldn't help recalling the contents from that diary I had accidentally discovered. I've fallen in love with a man. He's Liu Ran's fiancé. Liu Ran had an affair. To keep playing around for more years,